I'm Matt Norlander, and Iowa coach Fran McCaffrey joins me here on the Eye on College Basketball podcast and CBS Sports HQ. Fran, before we get into your team, I actually want to ask you something. I haven't asked any other coaches yet, but I've been talking to coaches in the past couple of weeks about it on the phone. This is such an interesting time of the year because you got media day, your practice has officially started. But how much time do you get to dedicate to your team knowing, like, it's also the live period. So aren't you got to go, you got to recruit, you got to see players, you got to fly out here, there, and everywhere. So in some ways, is this as, I know April's the most hectic because of the portal, but is this as, I don't know, as hectic as it gets because you're constantly bouncing all around and you don't maybe get quite as much time with your team as much as you like because of recruiting?
Well, I certainly think with your staff.
Yeah.
I mean, I get out when I can. I need to be at practice. You know, we're typically going 6 days a week, 5 days a week, 5 days a week now. So that's got to be the priority. Once you put your team together, as you pointed out, in April, and you start working out in the summer, you got to be there for your team. But you got to get out too. So if you're recruiting some guys locally, you can drive, fine. If you got to get on a plane, fine. You got to take a private plane flight. You got to do some recruiting because you have recruits coming in on weekends that are down to the end of their decision-making process, typically 2 or 3 schools.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting time as we gear up and get ready for the start of the season, which is a month away. If I dropped in on a practice this week, what kind of team would I see, and where are you most optimistic about your group?
I'm optimistic about a lot of things. I think it starts with who do you have back? And it's not something that seemingly as important as maybe it used to be if you just get a bunch of new guys out of the portal. We got 2 that are really good, but we have essentially 3 starters back. One was the Rookie of the Year in the league, one led the league in made threes, and the other one led the league in offensive efficiency. So that's a great place to start. We had a really good freshman class last year that performed well. They're all back as sophomores. You know, Brock Harding is going to be a really good player for us. Price Sanford was solid last year. He's going to be way better this year. I mean, he's shooting the ball extremely well. And Laji Dembele, a versatile front court guy. All those guys got quality minutes. Brock is playing at a whole nother level. So I'm excited about that. So that gives you 6 guys. Now we've got 2 freshmen that we really like. Cooper Koch, Chris Taggio, both 6'8", different styles. Both are ready to play right away. And then the 2 transfers, Seydou Traore and Drew Thilwell. So now, to go back to your original question, what are you excited about? I'm excited about our depth because I haven't even mentioned Evan Brawns, Carter Kingsbury, or Riley Mulvey. So probably the deepest team we've had.
The deepest?
Yeah.
And this is what year for you? 13, 14?
15.
15?
15, yeah.
I first met Fran McCaffrey, by the way, pre-CBS when he was the coach at Siena. 15 years.
15 years.
Wow.
Can't believe it.
Yeah, you probably can't believe it. It's probably gone by with something of a blur.
Incredibly fast. And my children essentially grew up. You know, Connor was in 6th grade, his first year in Iowa City. Patrick was in 4th. Marv was in 2nd. Jack was 3. And now Jack's a senior in high school.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. But you think it'll be the deepest? So let's hold you to this. Like, by that, should Iowa fans truly expect, knock on wood, health willing, they check in on a Hawkeyes game the week of Valentine's Day, you're minimally 9 deep with double-digit minutes, that you want to be able to go 9, 10 deep?
I think that will play out. You kind of alluded to it, based on injury, sickness, things like that. If everybody stays healthy, you got your core guys at the top. They're going to log a lot of minutes, but we've got a lot of guys who deserve playing time, and I'm a firm believer in you reward them with playing time. Sometimes it's not as much as they want in any particular game or any particular year, but when you play as well as these guys have played through the summer, through the fall, they deserve to be on the floor. So I would think 9 or 10 for sure.
What are your thoughts on the fact that you're now coaching in a conference with 18 schools that spans the country, all these time zones? From the media perspective, it becomes even more difficult to project. Like, Fran, you could have the 5th best team or the 15th best team in the Big Ten this year. I don't know. To me, it's fascinating. It has a lot of pros, but to me, it makes the middle of the league already wider and deeper than it was, and I thought that it was the widest and deepest that we had seen at the high major level in the past couple of seasons.
I think there's no question about that. I think it's going to be interesting. You know, you've been around. Things change, rules change, priorities change, and I've been in this a long time, so you deal with it. Obviously, there's been a shift to larger conferences. Well, you knew we would be right in the middle of that. Mm-hmm. Tony's done an unbelievable job there, and very proud of what he's done. And, yeah, it's a game changer. You know, flying to the West Coast, flying to the East Coast. But we're kind of used to that. And I think it, if anything, makes it more interesting for the fans to be looking at different matchups and where we are. Okay, yeah, you're right. You could be somewhere in the middle, but there's also some interesting matchups that we would not have had before, and it may eventually prepare you better for the NCAA tournament, because that's what the NCAA tournament is. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll deal with the travel. We'll deal with load management with the players. That's going to be really important. One of the reasons why starting in June is really good. You can get your guys in shape. You can get your stuff in, but you monitor health and welfare.
I want to close with something I'm sure you've been asked about plenty. Why wouldn't you, obviously? But I'm wondering, in like the first 3 to 6 to 12 months you ever got to know Caitlyn Clark before she became an absolute unprecedented phenomenon, if there was something that that stood out, be it, I don't know if you would have dropped in on a women's practice, just something before she became who she known across the globe, that looking back 2, 3, 4 years later kind of stands out, and you've kind of told the story publicly or privately.
Well, I don't know if there's one story, but I've been a proponent of hers from minute one. I saw her play in high school, and you could see this coming. I mean, if everybody tells you they couldn't see it coming, they're lying, because it was so obvious.
Yeah.
Her freshman year dominance at both ends of the floor, her creativity, her impact on winning, but I think more importantly, her personality. She's a great teammate. She's a great friend. She's fiercely competitive, but I was not surprised, despite the fact that she went right from a summer trip to an unbelievable season culminating in the national championship game, right to the Wooden Award and other awards, right to the draft, and then a full WNBA season. And what she did was nothing short of miraculous, but if you asked me, I would have told you this is what's coming. That's what she does. She impacts winning. She's going to be a dominant player in that league. I was quite frankly surprised and disappointed in some of the predictions that people made that clearly did not know what they were talking about, because if you watched the games, you could see this impact coming. And remember, everybody saying, well, it's going to be really hard when you go to the WNBA. But remember, she scored more points than any one of them ever. And that's not easy to do, because some really good players in that league. So I'm happy for her, and I wish nothing but the best for that league moving forward. And she's been incredibly impactful in so many ways, and will continue to be.
Well, I appreciate you joining us. Very intrigued to see what Iowa's going to be this season. I mean, you've got such tremendous offensive potential as usual. And, Fran, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you, my man.
Appreciate you.
All right, Matt.